Morning, everyone. Maseches Bava Kama, Daf Yetzer Amud Aleph, Yetzer Amud Aleph, Vayet Shichma Lispel. Before we continue, before we start Yetzer Amud Aleph, a little bit below the middle of the page, thank you for the tea. We're saying that this year is Leilu Nishmas Avi Mori Menachem Ben Akiva, Leilu Nishmas Rochel Bas Ben Zion, and Leilu Nishmas Shalom Bas Moshe Lerufuas Yudis Bas Rivka. Yeah. And Shaul ben Ozna. Shaul ben Ozna. Now, let's talk again about the chicken with the delil, right? The rooster with the delil. Remember what I told you? Once I told you that it's considered to be not normal, according to some Rishonim, for the delil, for the rooster that has the string attached to it, or like, tangled in its legs, and there's something in the other end of the delil. There's something sharpy or something that can hurt, and the animal walked around and something was hit by the delil. It pays how much? Chetzi nezek. Why chetzi? Well, you could say it's classical tzroiros. True. On the other end, there are people who say that's considered to be strange, and therefore it's called as keren, F nezek, because it's keren. And also, we differentiated between the case of the tarnagol with the delil and the case of a calf, a bigger animal, a beast that carries behind it a wagon, a carriage, right? And there we said it's not tzroiros. We explain why. Look at the spoon. Let's amend is an animal, and this is the spoon. Everywhere the animal walks, the thing behind goes with it. When it stops, it stops. When it walks, he walks. It's immediate. And therefore, it's like a fifth leg. It's not considered to be an independent thing. While the delil is something that jumps around and hops around, and therefore it has life of its own, and it's more like tzroiros that are shot off the animal's leg. The Chazon Ish makes a very interesting, in a way like a sikum of many different cases of the tarnagol. And I'm reading from the Chazon Ish inside. We're not reading the Gemara now, we're reading from the Chazon Ish. My son-in-law learned Bava Kama right before he got married to my daughter, and he reminded me of Chazon Ish here. Says the Chazon Ish. Well, Adina enkan plukta. There's no argument, he says, between the Rishonim. It all depends on the case. Case number one. Let's say as it's walking, as the animal is walking, it's the delil, the little thingy is towing behind. Vadehu regel. That's regel. That's like carrying behind you the little wagon, right? In other words, any movement of the tarnagol moves immediate reaction of the delil. That's considered regular regel. As we said, the regel is not only the body of the animal, it's also the bell on its neck or the muzzle in its mouth or anything else, right? Now, let's say the movement of, is basically elaborating now. If the movement of one end of the delil is the same movement as the other end, that's the other end of the rope that's connected to the chicken, then choshev ka'agol mosheches bakaron. As we said, this is like an egla. That's like the cow that with a carriage towing behind. Yes, chosheches bakaron. Ve'en zeh tzroiros. It's not considered as tzroiros. Let's say he basically he casted it, he threw it off. Let's say he just he shot off. The animal is walking, like, in other words, it's still connected to the body, but it's an independent movement. It threw away the other end. That's tzroiros. I don't care it's connected to the body, it's still connected to tzroiros because the animals are shooting off. Let's say did it on purpose. Let's say you see that this tarnagol is an agenda. He sees it clear over here. He says, hey, that's cool. It's a sport. Instead of playing soccer, instead of being Britain and go there, his game is to take the delil and shoot. He's a good he's a good sportsman. He knows how to aim towards the kli. That's already keren. That's not called tzroiros, because when the animal takes the delil and mechaven to hit specifically, that's called keren. The im tnua saroish, harocha koy alidei tnua sarosha koshu, zeo keren shelo alidei tzroiros. But yetzer, he brings that's mainly the different cases. In other words, you can have one case of a tarnagol with the end. You have three cases. If he tows along nicely behind the chicken and the same movement, that's not called tzroiros. as the animal moves, the item moves along with it. That's not called tzroros. It's immediate movement of the animal. It's like a fifth leg. If you say that it has its own movement of jumping around, that's considered a tzroros. And if the animal has a vicious kavana and it aims to throw the kli, its own weapon of a kli, at another kli belonging to Chaim Yankel, the neighbor, then it's considered as keren, and you have to pay half nezek to Chaim Yankel, the neighbor. So we see one glil with many different, with many different stories here. And then we come to the question: do we or don't we combine keren and tzroros together? Okay, I'm again. Yeah, you can ask your question now. Oh, please. Yes, I'm listening. Matarot Salomar. Yeah. Okay. Amud Aleph, second wide line. Boy mine Rabbi Abba bar Memel merabi Ami. Yeah, Rabbi Abba bar Memel est Rabbi Ami. The Amrila, some say Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Some say it's the question from Rabbi Chia bar Abba. The animal was walking along the neighbor's private domain, where regel, of course, applies. It is impossible. In other words, that place was full of pebbles, and every step of that animal on the ground would inadvertently, psik reisha, would mean tzroros. You have to be minatez, like leatiz, to spray you, to splash, so to speak. I know splash is about water, but that's the same word in Hebrew. Yeah, as the animal would walk there, for sure, psik reisha, that pebbles would just fly around at some point, all the time, or at some point, that's for sure. Statistically, it's going to happen. That animal, though, she did something different. She kicked, yeah, and she kicked the pebble on purpose. She's annoyed, boom, and then boo, it sent it flying, and then it caused damage. Mahu. What's going to be the halacha in this case? What are the two tzdadim? Tzad number one. Because it's impossible to walk there without throwing pebbles anyways, it's an inadvertent thing that the pebbles will be thrown, that's called normal. Even though that particular animal acted abnormally and kicked and was angry, but lemaise, it would have happened anyways. So can you consider that to be regel of tzroros? Because who cares that your animal behaved so badly and you couldn't expect it? Of course you could expect it, because lemaise, this is something that's going to happen if she walks on a pebble-strewn road. So for sure that maybe that can fall under regel, or dilma, or maybe not. Hashta miha, at the end of the day, hashta now, nevertheless, miha, machmas biut kamenatzas tzroros. Right now, what she did was biut. Right now, she kicked. And if she kicked, maybe that's considered to be as keren. That's keren, right? In other words, do we go by the general picture? She's in a situation where it's going to happen anyways, and that general situation is bad. Why do you allow your animal to walk in my field in an area full of pebbles when you know it's going to happen? And therefore, that's considered to be what? The regel. And therefore, regel would be how much? Tzroros of regel would be half nezek. Or do we say, no, listen, at the end of the day, this was first or second time, and therefore, what she did now, what she actually did, wasn't beleis bereira, wasn't just an inadvertent thing. She did it b'mezid. She's now doing keren. So maybe you don't follow the general picture, you follow the specific micro picture, and you say she actually did damage by keren. She kicked, right? So maybe that would not be chatzi nezek tzroros. It would be what? It would be keren. And keren, a keren, which is also chatzi nezek. Question, and the answer is teku. You know what teku means? You should know. Teku means tie. And my question is, maybe now the peanut gallery are thinking slowly now, and that is, and my question is, who cares? Or in yeshivish language, l'mayin of kamina. At the end of the day, it's either chatzi nezek because of tzroros of regel, or it's chatzi nezek because it's keren. I'm expecting you to give me at least three answers. What's the difference whether it's regular tzroros or keren of tzroros? And I can sip my property. What? Wow, Ellen got the trophy. Ellen, England won the World Cup. of Gemara for today. In other words, Ellen says, we had a tzad, and that's Rashi. There is a tzad to say that half of half, I think, is quarter, right? In other words, lefi the tzad, although we're not sure, but there was a tzad to say that tzroiros of keren, yesh shefel mivtzoim, there's tzroiros, and tzroiros of keren would be half of half. That would be quarter. Excuse me? Double? Jeopardy. Double jeopardy. Okay, okay. You always know the fancy legal terms, which I don't. And what it's no. Follow your own path. What was the other topic we had about keren of tzroiros? Let's say it happens once, twice, three times. Then, if you say it's keren, it is possibly developing adut. In other words, the fourth time or maybe the third time, it's machlokes, would be already nezek sholem. But if you say this is tzroiros of regel, tzroiros is tzroiros forever and ever. It will always stay half, right? Ad bias goel Mashiach, and afterwards too. And therefore we have this question. A third one, which Rashi doesn't say, and I was happy to see in the Nachlas David, migufoi or ma'aliyah. Remember, I hope this is not Chinese for anybody. Of course, you know. If you say this is from Regel, you pay from the best of your land. Give me your apartment in Rechavia now. Yeah, it's Ma'aliyah if this is Regel. Meitav Sadeh, Meitav Sadeh, Meitav Karmoi. If you say it's from Keren, then Keren, what did we say about Keren? Keren Tama pays from the body of the animal. And if your cow is worth only, I don't know, some very old, lousy cow, 500 shekels only, I'll only get 500, even though the nezek was 1,000, right? Because even half nezek was 1,000, yeah? Because you only get paid from what you have. What you get is what you see. And that's another nafkamina, teiku. Oh, I have something to say about teiku. Usually teiku means, teiku. Oh, what's Psak La'aloche? You're Shemaim. He wants to know the Aloche L'maisa. It's a sign of Yiras Shemaim. What? Teiku. Tish Metat Kushut Baya. Soon Elyonovi will come and tell us. Meanwhile, we have to use the services of Rabbi Yosef Karo and Ramoshi Yisraelish, and they say as follows. Usually teiko, there wasn't a surprise for me, but teiko means that you leave things as they are, which means that because you can't, let's say in the case of keren, of tzroiros, you don't know if he pays half or he pays a quarter. How much would Beis Din tell the person to, the damager to give? A quarter. No, the suffix is between quarter and half. What? Because there is a rule that More Markovich taught me, Amotzi Mechavero, all of Haraya. Prove it that I owe you half. Since there's a debate in the Babylonian Talmud, in Tractate Bava Kama, about whether it's half or quarter, so we don't know if it's half or quarter. All I can ask for you is a quarter. Hopefully not the quarter of the American quarter yet. A quarter, because the Matzim Chavlar proved to me that the other opinion is right. However, says the Mechaber, and this goes through all the sugyas here, the same things about quarter and half, the same thing, all the sugyas. And however, let's say the person says, I'm not a frayer, and I will take the entire half, what I'm owed, yeah? And then he took the law to his hand and says, I hold like the opinion that says half, and my tomatoes were ruined, and I'll take the entire half. Then, but the Evid ein mutzi miyadoi, will leave things as they are. He switched the Motzim Chavel Avaraya situation. Get it? If in his hands he has now the half, we can't say give him a quarter. Why? Because maybe the opinion that says half is right. And right now, the one holding the money is the damaged party, the plaintiff, and he says, I'm holding half. That's according to the Mechaber. According to the Ramah, he says our opinion is saying no, you can't take the law into your hands, and you do take away 1/4. We got the picture. Generally speaking, when it's teiku, we leave things as they are, and we work with the motzim chaver levarayim. Okay, so if it's quarter or half, or sometimes you have a question of 0 half. That's true. Let's say you have a question whether something in a Reshus Harabim was keren, or we're going to see it later. Soon we're going to see a case. We have a question, very fascinating case. There's a question, let's say, about a certain behavior, which is very weird. You brought a very nice case yesterday. Let's say there's a question, some weird behavior, and we don't know whether it's keren or regel. The movement wasn't so clear, the psychology of the animal. I don't know if it was keren or regel. You guys are the dayanim now. You are the dayanim. And I'm asking you a question. Reuven and Shimon come to Beis Din all panting and red-faced. And one of them says, his animal did keren in Reshus Harabim. The other one says, no, it was regel in Reshus Harabim. L'mayin of kamina, how much money are we talking about? If it's keren, how much is he owed the first time? No. If it's regel Reshus Harabim, how much is he owed? Maher, 0. Good. You guys are in the gym now, very in the mind gym. So now they come to Beis Din, and the Beis Din says, what would the Beis Din say? and let's say we still have a suffix in the Gemara and it's a teiku, how much is the paid? Zero. Because let's say there's a debate in the Gemara, which there is later, it's already an established suffix, so now it's zero, because zero, we don't know, it's on the other hand, if he grabbed the money, let's say the damaged father is Ishka Fryer, is a pilpil guy, and he took the chetzi, would we take it back from him? No, according to the Mechaber, and according to Ramo, maybe. That's it. Beautiful. Life is beautiful. What do you say, Jeffrey? The Rama has two tzdadim. We didn't read it inside. Let's. I'm saying this is a siku. We're not learning now. Shulchan Aruch. Oh, here comes a big question, and Shroris is about to come to a conclusion. Yomi asked Rab Zera a question. An animal was walking along Rishus Harabim. We are not goes boto. Rashi and mainstream Rishonim don't hold boto. This is regular gate in Rishus Harabim. The tiza, or the tiza, splashed, so to speak, the tzroiros, ve'ezika. What is that? Well, I would say that's tzroiros, right? Now, the question is, how do you view that? Now, this is where, in Rishus Harabim, Rishus Harabim, Regel and Rishus Harabim, chayiv or potur? Quick, potur. Now, this is tzroiros in Rishus Harabim. Up until now, I don't know if you noticed, whenever we spoke about tzroiros, I skirted and said, Rishus Harabim, we're not talking about. Tzroiros and Rishus HaYochid, of course you chayiv. It's regel, Rishus HaYochid, that's the nizak. What about tzroiros and Rishus Harabim? Here comes the question, what would be the halacha if there's tzroiros and Rishus Harabim? I would say potu, but it's not so simple. Keren midaminan lei, wow, v'chayeves. Maybe it's considered something similar to keren. Why? Because even though this is not keren, and this is not kicking, but we said, who are the two cousins that are very close here? Who is Tzroir's cousin? What's her name? What's the name of Tzroir's cousin, which is similar to it? Keren. Why? Because they both pay half. And they both are out of the box. They're both strange, right? They're half the thing. So maybe just like keren in Rishus Harabim is chayev, as we all know half, so too maybe Tzroir's in Rishus Harabim is chayev. Wow. We already found Tzroir's to be strange and crazy because you only pay half for no apparent reason. So too, maybe you also have to pay in Rishus Harabim, like another keren, like the similar case of keren. Or Dilma, or maybe Toda de Regel, Uptura. What are you talking about? It's a Toda de Regel. What is Tzroiros? It's a derivative, it's a byproduct of Regel. And of course, you put on Rishus Harabim. Okay, Omalei, he answered him, Rab Zera answered, and he said, Mistabra makes sense, what I said before. Toda de Regel makes sense, it's Toda de Regel. Tzroiros is Regel with a reduction. It's Regel on a sale. There's a sale in Akia, sale in Regel. You pay 50% for Tzroiros, that's all. And therefore, at the end of the day, other than that, it's regular Regel. Regular Regel is Rishus Harabim, Potter. Tzroiros Rishus Harabim is Potter.
For this, if Regel is Potter Rishus Harabim, and certainly Tzroiros, which is much more indirect, should certainly be Potter.
Interesting. Very nice idea. Very nice idea. I didn't see it in the Rishonim. Maybe somebody talks about it. It's a very nice idea. Shall we say Kal V'chomer? Yeah, but not between Regel. No, between Keren and Shen Regel will appear again. Not between Tzroiros and Regel. Not between the father and son. Nice idea. No, really nice idea. Over the Gemara doesn't say that. It is no. It's not the donkey in the Regel. No. This is regular tzroiros, or boom, shooting off. It's walking in the street, a pebble is under the feet, and whoosh, sends shots shooting off. By the way, both, this is important to know for the next line, Ellen and everybody else, both things happen in Rishus Harabim. The animal who was walking in the middle of, a violon, okay, in the middle of the street, it hit, some tin can that somebody left there, that shot off to where? To another part of Rishus Harabim, let's say Park Ayalon, and hit someone's, water bottle, smashed it, and everything's ruined, okay? Both things happen in Rishus Harabim. Both the cause and the effect were in Rishus Harabim. Yeah? Now comes the question. You okay?
No,
I don't have an answer to Tzvi. It's a good idea. I hear you, but I don't gain momentum. Comes now a new question, and that's a very long Ish, I remember from Yeshiva. Etiza, yeah, the line starts with Mistabra, and we're in Etiza. Case number 2. Etiza b'rshus harabim ve'zika b'rshus hayochid ma'u. Get that? The animal was walking down the street in rshus harabim. The pebble was stepped on, boom, in rshus harabim, and it flew right into Chaim Yankel's shop and smashed the window of his shop, which is rshus hayochid. So the cause was in rshus harabim, but the effect, with actual damage, took place in rshus hayochid. That's more complicated. That's a very tricky case because the actual cause, the damage started in rshus harabim, where it should be potur. On the other hand, the actual damage, the end of the maslul, the end of the trajectory, which was damaging, happened in rshus hayochid, where of course you chayav on regel. So what do we say then? So the answer is Omerle. He answered him something which Gemara will reject. Akira enkan hanocha yeshkan, rhetorically. If there is no Akira, how can you have Anocha? Which means, if the actual Akira, like in Shabbos, if you know Shabbos, Akira and Anocha, if Akira is what the actual takeoff of the plane never took place, in other words, if the actual cause of the damage happened in the place where it's potu because of Rishus Harabim, how can it be Mechayv and Anocha? How can it be Mechayv and Anocha? In Nezikim, we always go after the beginning of the Nezik. The Nezik itself, the cause of the Nezik, the damaging act, not the effect, but the cause happened where? In a place where there's no Akira, meaning it's not Chayiv, because it's Rishus Harabim. So how do you end up Mechayiv on something that Ki'ilu never started? Because it started in a place of Ptu, of exemption. This is tax-free area, damage-free area. This is regel v'shen, a free area. And therefore, even though the effect took place on Rishus HaYochid, who cares? Ki'ilu never really started. If you have questions on that, the Gemara also has questions on that. Eisivei. Now we're asking from the Mishnah. Eisivei. It's not from Mishnah, from the Brisa. Says the Brisa, an animal was walking gingerly down the road, Ve'etiza, boom, sent some stone flying. Ben b'rshus hayochid, ben b'rshus harabim chayev. Ben b'rshus harabim chayev. This is saying black and white. That Sararos in rshus harabim is chayev. My love, etiza b'rshus harabim, ve'zika b'rshus harabim. Sounds like both cause and effect were in rshus harabim. And we still say what? And we say that you chayev on soiros against what you said. Again, don't forget, we made two statements. We made two statements here, and we have to remember them all the time. Statement number 1, where both cause and effect on rshus harabim, of course you're potter. What is it? Regel. But even if the cause was in rshus harabim and the effect was in rshus hayochid, you're also potter. And we're going to attack both statements. Statement number 1, we see how it's right. We force a brisa against you, the Amoyer of Zera, that if the animal was walking down the street on soil, it's chayev, no. So you see soils in the street is chayev, even though it's regal. What's going on? We see it's keren, not regal. And it says the Gemara, no. It is a b'rshus harabim, zika b'rshus hayochid. No. The case when we say rshus harabim, we meant the cause was rshus harabim, and the effect was rshus hayochid, and that's why you chayev. Says Gemara, that doesn't help me much. What? That's a second statement. The Amarta, you told me, Akira enkan anocha yeshkan. You told me yourself that if there's no Akira, there can be anocha. If I never took off from that bag, I can't land in JFK. If I never took off, there was no takeoff. How come there's landing halachically? And therefore, you told me Nishtazo. You told me the cause in Rishus Harabim and effect in Rishus Hayochid, you're potter. And here the Brisa says chayev, and that's how you explain it. He says, I regret what I said. I revoke, I take back my words, I regret, which means the Rishonim explain that Rabim is, of course, your potter, because that's a Pashat Svara. Stamazoi, Sroirois, with all the respect to the other ideas, Sroirois is a derivative of who? Regel. Regel Rishus Harabim, if everything stayed within the confinement, so to speak, Rishus Harabim, your potter, it's Regel with a reduction. It's not even a strange Regel, it's Regel which is reduced. So Mimel, everything else is the same. Elamai, when we have, now changing our minds regarding the second case, when the animal stepped in Rishus Harabim and right away it sent it flying to Rishus Hayochid, if I remember correctly, I hope I'm not doing injustice to his words, if I remember correctly, my Megachir in Shir Beis of Fredman, I think he said that it's still happening now in Rishus Hayochid. I told you about 5,000 times, not 5,000, I told you about 10 times that I don't like the word indirect so much about soils, right? It's not so indirect. Even Lahavdil, let's say Tim McKenzie is a smart guy, a professor in somewhere. It's not exactly indirect. When you burn something here and the fire spreads, it's not the most indirect thing in the world. When you boom, hit something and boom, right away, it flies off, it's not very indirect. It is, how do you call it? Semi-direct, yeah? In other words, it's an immediate reaction, but it's not the actual body touching it. And therefore, we view it as if when the animal steps in Rishus Harabim, and it's right away, with no delay, and no further koyach koycho, it's a straight koyach. We say when it stepped over here in Rishus Harabim, and it right away was sent flying with no stoppage in between, no stopovers between Tel Aviv, JFK. Right away, you right away landed. Then what? It keilu happened in Rishus HaYochid. It's keilu animal stepped in Rishus HaYochid. The effect is so direct that when the animal steps in Rishus Harabim, and then boom, right away it goes there with no stopping in between, and it's the koyach is so ingrained in it, so encapsulated in it, it's keilu the animal went and stepped in Rishus HaYochid, and therefore it's chayiv. I hope I remember. It's been 30 years ago, and I didn't find more material now, but this is more or less what I remember. Yeah, I hope. Yeah. The yetzer, what? Oh, very nice. We'll discuss that. That's Nugget to the Sugya. Very nice. Later information, we'll get there. He said the words Isha Mishuchitza, which is a huge Sugya later on. Okay, Asive. If you didn't get it, the Gemara is going to do more or less a Chazorah. What we're going to see now is a similar question, similar answer. Asive. Another question on the same idea. Dosa ala kli v'shvartoi. An animal stepped on the kli. This is from a Mishnah. And it broke the kli. Don't worry, it's not the crazy case of 3 kelim, only 2 kelim. It broke a kli. The first kli was broken straight under the hoofs of the animal. Yofi. And broke it, and then right away what happened? Boom. V'nofel shever al kli acher. And one piece, one broken piece, one resis, one broken piece of the kli that was stepped on was sent flying and hit another kli. V'shovroi, and broke the other one. How many kelim in total do we have broken? Ein, zwei, 2, only 2. The first one you pay nezek sholem. Well, of course. Why? Because we're talking here about nezek sholem stepping straight on it. Okay? Where is that? Not in Rishus Harabim, of course. That's regular regel, straight under its hoofs. That's regel mamish. You pay nezek sholem if it happened in the private domain. The second one is what? Sororos, and you pay chatzi nezek. What do you prefer? Say sororos or sororos? Which one? Prefer your language. Click the button. Yeah. And we said about that. I told you. In a Rishus Nizak, that's classical, of course. A Rishus Nizak, you pay full on regel. You pay half on sororos. That's a good boy. Aval b'Rishus Harabim, what happens if the same thing would be in Rishus Harabim? Would you be chayiv in the first kli? No, because it's regel Rishus Harabim potur. Look at the Gemara. Ala rishon p'tua, 3 lines from the bottom of the page. Ala rishon p'tua, but achon chayeves. The second one, it's chayev, right? Because this is Rishus Harabim, and on regel you potur. But the second one, which is sororos, the shrapnel shooting off, you chayev, because you chayev in sororos in Rishus Harabim. My love, what are you telling me? Same question as before. The Havamina, both cause and effect happen in Rishus Harabim, and you're telling me Tzot Rishus Harabim is chayiv, and you Rav Zera told me patu. And it says no. It is a Rishus Harabim, ve'ezika b'Rishus HaYochid. No, the case was, as we said before, it's walking down the street and it's stepping on the kli. You potter on that, and then boom, right away, a piece is shot off that kli, and it hit Rishus HaYochid, Chaim Yankel's furniture store. It hit, I don't know, some sofa over there, and stabbed it. And then you are chayiv. You chayiv on that. In fact, the Gemara, that's not what you said. From there, you didn't say that. It's a repetition of before. You told me that there's no akira, there's no anocha. You told me we go by the beginning, but of course, not with the effect. So here you should also be potu. Same response. I regret that the first statement where everything happens. By the way, that's halacha. If you happen Shulchan Aruch, you're going to see exactly the same thing. No surprises. Well, give me one more case, which is similar, and then your questions. Let's say everything happened in Rishus Harabim, both boom and shooting off. Everything was in Rishus Harabim. Are you chayav or potur? Potter. But if the hitting was on Rishus Harabim and the effect, the actual damage was sent flying off and damaged something in the private domain, very, very common. You have a street, usually in the olden days, and even today in the internet age, Baruch Hashem, you still have shops in the street, right? So it hits someone's glass, pane, whatever, in the shop, so that's royals, and on that you'll be chayev. How much? Chatzi nezek. You guys are big Talmidei Chachamim today and every day. Very good. Chatzi nezek, beautiful. Eini, very good. One more, and then I'll have time for questions. We're not in North Korea yet. We're so nice. Eini, we're in Tel Aviv. Eini, Zog the Gemara, we're turning the page. You test Amud base. Rama Rabbi Yochanan makes a statement. What does Rabbi Yochanan say? This is to do the Kal V'chomer. Rabbi Yochanan says, Ein chatzi nezek choluk, lo l'rshus hayochid, v'lo l'rshus harabim. Rabbi Yochanan says, chatzi nezek of, I would say, keren, is never different between Rishus Hayochid and Rishus Harabim. There was a Havamina, a question in the Gemara later on to say that keren and Rishus Harabim should be potter. Wow, why? Because the Gemara had a Havamina which was quickly, not deflated, quickly rejected, deflected, that's what I meant to say, thank you, deflated, yeah. And the question was, maybe suggest a very interesting Kal V'chomer. Maybe keren, tama, first time offense of keren in the street should be potu. Why? If shen v'regel, which are nezek sholem, there's no half sprech shen v'regel, it's full nezek, and yet in Rishus Hayochid it's full nezek, and in Rishus Harabim you're potur. So the keren first time, which is half nezek in Rishus Hayochid, maybe in kol sheken in Rishus Harabim should be potu. If Rishus Harabim is such a nice liberal place, you can do whatever you want. This is, I don't know, some kind of, hippie place, do whatever you want. For shen v'regel, which are usually worse. So chatzi, nezek, keren, which is more mekel, of course in Rishus Harabim should be potu. It's a havamina. It's against the logic of what, it's a havamina. On that, Rabbi Yochanan answered, Rabbi Yochanan brings from the Psukim, it says twice in the Torah, Yechetzun, Techetzu, Chatzi Nezek is across the board. Rishus Hayochid, Rishus Harabim, or the Rishus of Grandma Shfrin Tzabela. It's always Chatzi Nezek wherever you are, Zeros and Kosu. We can have very nice Kal V'chomers and logic, that's a rule. The Gemara here wants to apply Rabbi Yochanan also regarding Tzroiros and tell me what? Just like Tzroiros and Rishus Hayochid is Chatzi Nezek, so too Tzroiros Rishus Harabim is Chatzi Nezek, and we don't like that. And Frag the Gemara, my love, here's a Rishus Harabim, Zika Rishus Harabim. Here's Rabbi Yochanan, and what? You see that half Nezek is not only keren, half Nezek has two members in the party, keren and Tzroiros. Tzroiros and Rishus Harabim is, you tell me, chayev. You don't differentiate, don't discriminate. It's always chayev, even in Rishus Harabim. Says the Gemara, no. It is a Rishus Harabim, it's a Rishus Hayochid. Same answer. No, Rabbi Yochanan meant that if you hit it in Rishus Harabim and it damaged Rishus Hayochid, that's when you are chayev, because the effect took place in Rishus Hayochid, where regel is chayev. Remember, what is tzroiros? Usually regel or shen. Regel or shen, let's say regel now, most cases regel. If the regel, the effect happened where? Rishus Hayochid, it's regel, and Rishus Hayochid, and you chayev, you go by the end, not at the beginning. Yeah? Or it all happened at the beginning. You yourself said that it's not like that if there's no akira, there's no hanocha, and here there is no akira, meaning on the actual hitting in Rishus Harabim should be potter, I can be chayav at the end. If there's no cause, there's no effect. If there's no takeoff, there's no landing. For the third time, he's saying the same thing. Why it's repetitive, don't ask me. I saw some things which were not clear enough for me. I don't want to stop telling you stories. Lamaisa, he proved himself 3 times that he's choizel boy. Hadri B. One more, and then here are questions. An alternative answer to the last question of the 3 of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan akeren nekuda. Rabbi Yochanan never spoke about tzroiros. I already gave you a hint at the beginning. Rabbi Yochanan discussed keren. Rabbi Yochanan says keren is keren is keren. A keren by any other name is a keren. You'd say in English. A keren, Rishus Hayochid, Rabim, outer space, yeah. And the moon, one astronaut brought a bull and he started goring. I don't care. Keren would always be half nezek regardless because of the psukim. Tzroiros, he never discussed tzroiros. Tzroiros we never discussed. So don't attack me from Rabbi Yochanan because Rabbi Yochanan never spoke about tzroiros. And tzroiros, I'm still free to think for myself. Maybe tzroiros and Rishus Harabim that hit Rishus Hayochid would be potur. Well, halacha l'maisa, as I told you, Tzroros, which starts and finishes in Rishus Harabim, is what is really potul. But if it started in Rishus Harabim and right away flew into Rishus Hayochid, you're chayev. The cause and effect are too immediate, or too close for comfort, and therefore it's keilu, it's all together. And the regel with the effect of Rishus Hayochid is regel Rishus Hayochid. And I think it says in Exodus 20 something, it says you chayev on the nezek of regel in Rishus Hayochid, even though it started in Rishus Harabim but ended in Rishus Hayochid. You chayev how much you chayev, as Yitzchak very correctly said, you chayev half because it is Tzroros. There's a very long queue. Sorry. Okay, so this is recorded now. The Meiri says, and about many years later was miskaven by Ellen over here. The Meiri says that the same thing works the other way, meaning just like we stated, if the animal walks down the street and boom, something was shot over to Rishus Hayochid, it is chayev because we go by the result and not by the action, and therefore chayev. The same thing would be the other way. Let's say the animal is walking in private domain of an Izak, and it's walking, and then boom, the pebble hits Rishus Harabim and hits someone's vase in Rishus Harabim. It's going to be what? Potul. Because we always go by the cause and not by we always go with the effect, We always go by the result. So since the result over there happened with Rishus Harabim, it's potul. So I says the Meiri. In Chaven to the words of the Rishonim. Wow. I'm so stunned, I just have to continue. Unless you have something quick. Tumchus is anti-Tzroros. You're about to two lines here, marked in blue on my screen. And these two sugyas are very, very, not sugyas, two cases, very crucial, very pivotal, is the word, in understanding the concept of keren. I don't know if you noticed, but as opposed to shen v'regel are very easy to define. I'm giving you a small introduction. Shen v'regel are very easy to define, easier to define. Shen, you're having fun and it's normal. Regel is just walking around and it's normal, or sitting or walking is all normal. Keren, we always vacillate between two different things. Keren, on one hand, has one quality. There's two qualities that are dominated. One quality is being different, doing something strange, and the other quality is doing something lahachis, doing something, with kavon lahazik, with a meaning to be mazik. And sometimes the two don't exactly meet. It could do something strange, but not in kavon lahazik, right? For example, or maybe there's kavon lahazik in a way that seems to be normal, which is more rare. Now the next sugya is going to shed some light on that. And by the way, I'm going to give you an example which we already spoke about. What happens when your dog is really hungry? And for that, he's willing to be audacious, and it eats an animal twice his size. On one hand, he's not just trying to kill for fun, to be mazik. Miskan, he wants to eat. He didn't buy him his dog food in the supermarket, so now he has to start with the neighbor's goat. So I could say that's shen. On the other hand, we say what? At the beginning, it's keren, because it's abnormal. He's not trying to hurt in order to hurt, but on the other hand, this is abnormal behavior. So see a mixed breed over there, excuse the pun, and we say what? At the end of the day, we really called it keren. The killing is keren, and later on the eating becomes shen. Now we're going to see two cases that are very interesting in the same light. There are no questions for the next 5 minutes, and then maybe there will be when we finish the Amud. We'll see. Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and Rabbi Yoshia, were sitting, Akil ad Rabbi Yehuda. They were sitting by the doorstep of Rabbi Yehuda. Some say it was the same Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. Nofek milsa mi beinayu. They were both discussed something, and the word came out from both of them, meaning we know there was a discussion. We don't know who said what. And the discussion was as follows. The animal was wagging its tail. Animal was walking, wagging its tail. And as it was wagging its tail, it hit something, walking, wagging like this nicely, and on a good mood. And now it hit something. What's the halacha? What's the question? Let's see the answer, and then we'll get the question. So the other one told him, what do you want? Do you want him to hold her by the tail and walk? It's something that you can't control. You can't control it, so don't come to me. My animal walks. It's normal for animals to walk in the streets. It's considered as normal. and it's considered to be normal for any animal to wag its tail. Depends, or they all do it in one way or the other. Many of them do, and therefore we say that's considered as normal, and it's a shusayoch. Rabbi. So how would you define it? Regel, shen, keren, grandmother. So just regel. Of course, it's like walking. Walking, part of walking is walking as it's wagging its tail. Mimela regel should be potu. Wait, you're not stop telling me it's regel. You're starting to bring your own reasoning over here. You say, I can't control it. That's how my animal behaves. It was born that way, by wagging the tail. If so, where do you put the line to this liberal kind of machshava? Keren nami, but Keren I would say the same. Name, I would say, it gores every once in a while. I can't control it. I can't hold it by the horn and walk with it. Says the Gemara, Hachi Ashta, is that the same? Keren, lav uche. Keren is not the normal way. And since it's abnormal behavior, the keren, which is not normal, is considered as keren. And therefore, L'shus Harabim, last time I checked, keren is chayiv. Ef nezek, but chayiv. Uche. But this one is normal. For the animal to wag its tail in a way that's uncontrollable and normal, normal is, as it walks along, it normally wags the tail. It's normal and it's regel. The question you guys may have now is a question of the Gemara. What's a chiddush? In other words, of course, if this is the part of the normal part of the gait of the animal that it walks and wags, walk and wag, yeah? Mimela, of course it's regel. What's a chiddush? The Gemara asks the question, if this is so normal, what was the question to begin with? Answers the Gemara, and here we come to big stuff. Kishkush yetero mibayle. Kishkush yetero mibayle means there was extra strong wagging. It was wagging its tail in a way that was much more excited. Yeah, how do you say exuberant? Maybe. Yeah, exuberantly was wagging its tail, very, very excited. It's about to win the big trophy, the big bone. Yeah, and therefore, that was the question. What's the question? This is now very, very good. On one hand, this is abnormal behavior. This is a very gray area between regel and keren. I highly recommend you pay attention. Regel and keren is exactly where we're in the gray area in between. Mitzad echad, wagging the tail is no bad kavana. If wagging its tail maybe happily, excitedly. Elamai, so one hand I would say regel. Mitzad shen, it's not normal regel. It's not normal regel because regel means only the normal gait, the normal behavior. Starts going shigging and wagging the tail like a choil nefesh, like a so strong. That's already not the regular gait. It's something above and beyond the normal. So maybe that falls under keren. Wow. Even though there's no bad intention, and even though it's close to normal, because it's a bit, like charig, it's excessive. Therefore, I would say maybe that's already falling under keren. It remains a question, and that actually remains a question. By the Gemara, it's a teiku. And that's a teiku, and that's the case I told you before, where we're not sure if that kind of behavior is abnormal enough to be called keren, or do we say it's not even so abnormal? It is normal plus. Yeah, it's not very crazy behavior. It's not even as crazy. It's more fine-tuned. It's not even as crazy as my little puppy eating the big sheep. There, it's really crazy. Over here, it's a bit charig. It's a bit abnormal, not very abnormal. And therefore, we have a question. Do we say anything a little bit out of the norm, like a school, anything out of the norm a little bit, they already don't like it when a child does something a bit different, you know that? So too, do we say that, I'm on YouTube. Yeah, so Mimela, if we say that a little bit out of the box is already keren, because keren is abnormal, or do we say no, it's normal behavior in an excessive fashion. So maybe it still falls under what? Regel. That exactly is the question which, my friends, I'm sorry to tell you, is not resolved. According to some Rishonim, and we're still in the same place. Yeah, we're driving now towards Pyongyang. And boy, Ravena, please remember your questions, store them, you can save them now for 2 seconds, and then we'll go to the next case, which is very nogia, and then I hear your questions. Boy, Ravena asks this following question, and I will give a small hakdom over here before we start, in order to avoid mistakes. What happens if Mazel Tov, the bull and the cow got married, and now during a revia or tashmi shamita or mating, I think it's called in English, they were mazik. Yeah, they didn't realize that Chaim Yankel's kli was in the middle, and they were doing what they were doing. They want to do a period of revia, doros yishalom averochim, and yeah, Mazel Tov soon. And they want to have a child, and by mistake, as they were doing their ma'aseh, what happened? They broke a kli. Oh, we didn't mean to hurt anybody. So then what happens then? Says Tosfos later on, the Gemara elaborate on the Tosfos. Which one would that be? Keren, shen, or regel? Shen, because this is regular behavior and it's enjoyable, yeah. And therefore, that's considered as shen. It's like eating. Now comes a question, which is like a derivative of that. By Rav Eina asks a question. Let's say the male was wagging its male organ. Yeah, Mahu. So this is not mamish tashmish, but this is something related to that. Maybe so his wife, yeah, whatever. So he's mekashkish ba'amosa. He's wagging his male organ. Mi amrinan. What's the question over here? It's another development on keren. Mi didaveh keren. I would say this is like keren. It's similar to keren. Why? Because keren has the kavana issue here. Keren lav yetzer kadoki flay. Keren has a yetzer hara. The keren has yetzer. It's a decisive thing. Keren is the yetzer hara of the animal. Animals have yetzer hara, and they want to hit someone's bucket on purpose. Hochanami loishna. Well, it's not different. Here it has also yetzer. Yetzer, that was yetzer for fighting, and that's a yetzer for mating. So maybe that behavior, which is not so run of the mill, it's something related to yetzer, is also considered to be keren. Explain the Rishonim that this is not regular mating. When he's mating, he's having fun, and having fun while mazik, that's regular shen, and it's normal. That wagging of the tail is not so normal. It's not really part of the normal maisa of the mating. It's something either before or something to do with that, some kind of excitement. It's not exactly the normal stam while you're having fun. It's something a bit different. It's a yetzer, like maybe out of the regular maisa tashmish. Oidilma. So therefore, I would say that's keren. Oidilma, or maybe I would say no. Keren kavanosa lahazik. Keren is not stam abnormal. He wants to hurt. He wants to eat. He wants to damage. Oh, and kavanosa lahazik. There are two adults. Yeah, consenting. Yeah, he's not hurting anybody. He's just excited because he sees his wife, nearby in the other meadow. And that's all. So he's not really intending to be mazik. Teku. Wow, there remains a question. So again, we're fine-tuning keren. Do we say keren only means abnormal and meaning to damage, and then something which more like to do with a mating attraction is not nugea? Or do we broaden the definition and we say no, anything a bit out of the box that has any kind of yetzer, any kind of thought, preferences, he wants to go to that cow, not the other. It's also yetzer. We all know human beings, this is a yetzer. And therefore, maybe that broadens, that would also be keren. Teiku, there remains in a teiku. We have 2 minutes. Okay, I'll be so nice and I'll ask questions now. Yes, Peretz. I think you want, or, yeah? Peretz, yes, I'm listening.
Is there not knowledge when it comes to the extent?
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.